It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here. Today on the big program, lots to get to, lots to talk about. Well, the cons have finally found East Palestine, Ohio on the map. And gun fetish Barbie, Lauren Boebert, tweeted out that Pete Buttigieg finally emerged today. Not a single comment about the train crash in Ohio. Instead, he bemoaned the whiteness of the construction industry. It's a miracle this country is able to function under this regime. And look, here's the weird thing. The outrage machine on the right has finally found out, hey, there was something going on over there. Hey, some big giant plumes of smoke and stuff. Lots of it. And again, it's interesting that the people who are responsible for this, in my view, are the ones who were silent the entire time until now the outrage machine goes, oh, Pete Buttigieg didn't mention it. Now let's attack Buttigieg and Biden and all of them. And look, there's a lot of attacks to go around. Now, it's interesting. While she's attacking the guy who's the head of the Department of Transportation, didn't mention the fact that the guy who was the congressional representative in that area, Republican Bill Johnson, chair of the House Committee on the Subcommittee on Environment, Manufacturing, and Critical Materials, environment kind of there, not a peep until the outrage machine said, hey, over here. And a couple hours ago, finally, a miraculous statement, and going to be on with the Hannitys, and now he's got his shot. This is his shot to be somebody. Now he does say something. And the thing is, I've been asking why this hasn't been front page news for the last week. Well, since it happened. 5 giant cars carrying 40,000 gallons of this vinyl chloride. This is honestly, this is one of the largest ecological disasters in this country's history. I mean, this is they're saying, it's being reported that 100,000 gallons of this stuff, or 1 million pounds of this vinyl chloride, has either been leaked, spilled, or burned. And there are people in the area reporting their cars and their houses and everything covered with acid rain and phosgene and all of this stuff that, not great for you. Not good for you. In fact, I looked up phosgene. Phosgene is a poisonous gas. So if you're breathing this stuff in, not good for you. And you look at the pictures of the people, the cleanup crew, I'm not seeing the kind of safety precautions that I would like to see. Now, the hydrogen chloride that comes out of this, because it's been reported that obviously this burning of this stuff and all this stuff produces hydrogen chloride, not good for the nose, skin, eyes, throat, larynx, all that stuff. It's kind of bad for you. All of it bad for you. And no reporting. And yet last week, you had a guy, I think it was Wednesday, a reporter had the audacity to ask a question during the DeWine press conference. They arrested him for the crime of, speaking while the DeWine was speaking. And there's been no real attention. And we've been talking about it. Last week, we had Jared Cassidy on from the Smart Union saying, hey, what's going on there? Finally. And again, the outrage machine, this isn't about finding out what went wrong. This isn't about helping the people on the ground. This isn't about making sure it doesn't happen again. This is about just outrage. This is about being mad at Pete Buttigieg. Now, I find it interesting that the mayor of the town, a guy named Trent Conaway, he's been quoted as saying, this isn't going to get swept under the rug. Not going to happen. I'm not going to be the country bumpkin that gets talked over by a big corporation. We're going to hold their feet to the fire. They're going to do what they say they're going to do, and they're going to protect the people of this town. No, they're not. I think the last person in the room who knows that, no, they're not. Because again, this wasn't allowed to get out. This wasn't front page news everywhere. This wasn't the story of them. We were too busy talking about stoves and balloons. I actually, someone actually, tweeted, Joe Biden issued an executive order to derail the train to get us off of talking about balloons. I mean, that's how crazy things have gotten. And the thing that bothers me is when you throw out a comment of going, hey, this is wrong, we should be dealing with the situation, it immediately, especially on the right, becomes, well, you're blaming Donald Trump for this. And you go, no, there's blame there. During the Trump years, he did roll back a lot of regulations on this industry. This is the central tenet of conservative ideology. This is what the Republicans have been fighting for decades. This idea that you're going to allow corporate America to self-police themselves. This idea that corporate America will do what's in their best interest. And that will then protect from the rest of us. No, that's not how it happens. They do what's in their best interest, their bottom line best interest. Because they know we're never going to hold them accountable. Right now, as we speak, it's being reported that the railroad, Norfolk Southern, is out there. How did they put it? Was it offering $1,000 inconvenience fee checks to all of the residents that they can get a hold of? They're offering, here's a little bit of money to help you get through this. Now, of course, you have to know, anytime they're offering you something like this up front, it's going to come with a clause that you're not going to sign on to a class action lawsuit. You're not going to sue them for big money, that there's going to be some liability shields down the road. You know this is how they work. And again, I go back to Trent Conaway's comments, and I'm not going to be the country bumpkin that gets rolled over. This is a high poverty area where people are going to jump at this $1,000 because they desperately need it. I don't see anybody going in there going, hey, we need to set up all kinds of abilities for people to stay the hell away from their homes and make sure that they're made whole through the wages that they lose. None of that. I'm sorry, not seeing it. Where's Lauren Boebert? Where's Bill Johnson? Where are the rest of these Republicans who represent these rural areas who are going to get screwed over in this? And that's not even talking about the workers in this. But again, I got taken to task of, you're just blaming Republicans and Donald Trump. And you go, yeah, there's a lot of blame here. There's a lot of blame for Republicans, Trump, and conservative corporate Democrats. There is a lot of blame here that allowed this industry to monopolize, that has privatized, profitized, and silenced the voice of we the people in all of this. And I keep coming back to, it's the belief, it's the ideology. If you can blame anything, and again, we don't know what happened yet. We will get an NTSB report, and we've reached out to our friends over at the BLET, who fortunately sit on that board, and will, when the report comes out, they will come tell us exactly what it is. But I can tell you already what I think it is. It's the fact that this industry has moved to this precision scheduled railroading, which means, in short, slashing employees, cutting safety, cutting corners, and seeking the most profitable ways to line their pockets. Cut your way to profits. An industry that had thousands, tens of thousands more workers back when it had thousands fewer cars. We see the report. For miles, this train was evidently on fire. An axle looked like it was on fire. This is what's being reported. And, the sad reality is when you have a 30% cut in the workforce over the last couple of decades, when you have the kind of rush inspections, when you have the kind of waiver system, again, deregulating to the point where corporate America will take care of it. Don't worry, they can police themselves. They'll do what's in their best interest. When bad things happen, are you surprised? And look, it is common that axles heat up. It is common. It's common that axles fail. It's rare that an axle being on fire would cause it to derail. I understand that from the beginning. But here's the thing. This is one of those really weird kind of moments. Even while this thing was on fire, evidently these trains, the tracks have these end of train fail devices. What used to be known as cabooses, that had people in them that were monitoring things and making sure that that the flames aren't shooting out of the side of the train. These things fail almost every time. Almost every trip they fail at some point. And the other beautiful part of this, there's no regulation on these. These aren't mandated. They're not regulated. No one's overseeing them. So who knows if they're even on? It's like one of those cute little boxes that has a camera in it that doesn't have a wire leading out of it, that no one knows if it's actually working. This is kind of that. They go, look, we've got the thing. It's like the cleanup after 9/11. They had all those red lights all around the pit that were supposed to go off when the air quality reached a certain level that weren't actually wired up. So all of those people who thought, hey, the lights aren't on, the air quality must be okay, I can breathe in this crap. Sorry. Now, again, I go back to this. For me, the main parts of this are very simple. It's the monopolization. We've got these companies get too big and too powerful and unaccountable. Their lobbying arms are extremely powerful because they've been able to hold off regulations for decades. During the Obama term, they wanted to put a different braking system on the. Remember when the oil trains were blowing up all the time or derailing? They wanted a different braking system. They wanted to upgrade that with new technology, not Civil War era technology, something new. And the first thing the Trump administration did when they came in, wiped it all away. It's this hatred of regulation, of oversight, that's caused part of this. Now, as I was talking to people who are in the industry today, I said, what are the big problems? And they said everyone agreed it's the waivers. The railroads are giving these regulatory waivers all the time. For instance, if every car is supposed to be, let's just say, a car is supposed to be inspected every 1,000 miles, or every 5,000, or whatever that number is. The railroad goes, well, we didn't get around to it. Give us a waiver to double or triple. We'll get it next time around. And evidently, these things are coming fast and furious. They own the regulatory body because there's a swinging door between what little regulation there is and the industry. And this is, again, another one of these problems that we've allowed to spring up around us. That in the minor regulations that we do have, there's a swinging door between the industry and the overseers. That has to stop. And as one person told me today, there's this guy, Carl Alexi. He's a Trump appointee who is responsible for all these waivers. And it's basically just pencil whip. Whatever the industry wants, the industry gets. Because, hey, it's bad on business to hold them accountable. It's bad on business to make them do the things that need to be done. And as one person reminded me, it's not about customer service in the rail industry. It's about these metrics that they throw out that the owners of the companies want. It's the bean counters hitting their metrics, hitting their goals. That makes the owners, that makes them happy. And you go, well, who are the owners? Well, everyone today was going, Warren Buffett owns all the railroads. No, he doesn't. He owns BNSF. This was Norfolk Southern. BNSF is out on the West Coast. This is Norfolk Southern. When you fall down into the rabbit hole to see who owns Norfolk Southern, it's a web of private equity groups who are unaccountable to you or me, with lobbying dollars that are just enormous. So again, you look at these disasters, you look at this and you go, who are they going to hold accountable? I go back to the mayor. Who are you going to hold accountable, mayor? Nobody. Because they're shielded from liability and they own a political party and a half. What are you going to do? This is one of those moments where, look, am I happy with how Buttigieg has handled things? No. Do I understand you've got to clean it up before you can find out what happened? Yeah. Should there be much more being done? Yes. But again, this comes back down to how little media coverage this has gotten and how it's not the sexy stuff. We were too busy focused on a woman walking around Congress with a balloon, looking like a furry in her coat. We're too busy listening to the Boberts of the world who are throwing bombs. Instead of going, hey, how do we have a government oversight system that ensures that communities and workers and citizens are safe? So at the end of this, we're going to get some mealy mouth kind of jumbled response out of this. And I said at the very day it happened, I said eventually they're going to try and blame the worker for this, the engineer. They're going to try and blame them for this. But what's really at stake here, what really, in my view, is the problem here, the fact that we've allowed these railroads to consolidate from 40 in the 80s down to 6 today, that we've allowed them to gut employment to the point to where they're talking about wanting just one person on a train that's 5 miles long, and on a training setup that they want to cut from 16 weeks or 18 weeks down to 6. There's nothing good with saying, here, corporate America, police yourself. It's kind of like, to be honest, it's kind of like saying, here, Rick, have a radar gun. I want you to track speeders, and you're going to have the only radar gun. And giving me a car that'll do 200 miles an hour down the road. What are you going to do? I'm going to do 200 miles an hour down the road because I've got the only radar gun. Same scenario here. They know there's nobody watching. And the ones that are, they know they own. So, Mayor, I wish you the best. I hope you do hold these people accountable. I hope they don't run over another country bumpkin. But I got to tell you, doesn't look good for you. Doesn't look good at all. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Gonna take a quick break. Right back.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
Instead of making the wealthy pay their fair share, some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not politely not naming them, but it's being proposed by some of you.
It will be my objective to phase out Social Security, to pull it up by the roots and get rid of it.
So that would raise taxes on half of Americans and potentially sunset programs like Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security.
Well, John, that's, of course, the Democrat talking point. It's a
No, it's in the plan. It's in the plan.
But it come up to me, the answer won't work. So that's on the table, you're saying? Well, if people want to work longer, maybe you need to give them an incentive to do it.
If it was Mac 8s, I think that we do need reforms to Social Security.
We got to turn everything into discretionary spending, so it's all evaluated.
Younger people are living longer, so we're going to have to adjust the age probably once again.
If we really want to talk about the debt and spending, it's the entitlements program.
I know that a lot of Republicans, their dream is to cut Social Security and Medicare. Well, let me say this. If that's your dream, I'm your nightmare.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So the Super Bowl on Sunday was entertaining. I enjoyed watching the game. A little disappointed in the ending. I didn't see a holding call. Didn't see it. And I know they got the guy who they called it on to say, I'm not buying it. That could have been a much more exciting ending to a game than what it was. But it was interesting. But for me, the moment that caught my attention, and look, it was a fun game. Had a wonderful day, had some incredible food. My wife made just a beautiful spread, in best wings she's ever made. Fabulous stuff. But there was a shot where they went from the game up to the boxes to look at the celebrities. You got to see you got to see LeBron, you got to see Bradley Cooper, you got to see a whole bunch of people, because evidently we want to know that our rich and famous are watching football like the rest of us. But they panned over to Elon Musk because, of course, why not? Why not? If he's there, you got to point it out. But he was sitting there with Rupert Murdoch. And it's one of those moments where, my mind goes into these really, really, interesting places. My mother always used to say, you're judged by the company you keep. Because I had some friends she didn't like. And, she was right. Oddly enough, as I tell my kids the exact same thing now. Interesting how that stuff plays out. But, I'm looking at Musk and Murdoch sitting next to each other. Now, you'd go, well, what's the big deal about that, Rick? Well, the big deal about that is Musk bought Twitter under the idea that he was going to open it up and he was going to make it more transparent. And he was going to do all these wonderful things about democracy and free speech and all this stuff. And yet, interestingly enough, all we really see him do is attack people that he considers the left or people that he considers, not in line with his thinking. Twitter was a space where left voices had a little bit more power than the right. It's true, mostly because the right abandoned it because they couldn't play by the rules. And this is what the right does masterfully. If you watched the hearings, listen to Lauren Boebert and her clan going on about how she was shadow banned. She wasn't shadow banned. She violated the rules. They banned her. And then she got out of Twitter jail and came back and did it again. And this is what the right did all the time. So as they weren't following the rules, they were complaining, they're silencing us, playing the victim. Oh, nobody plays the victim like a conservative. Oh, especially a religious zealot conservative. Nobody plays the martyr like that. But to see Murdoch and Musk sitting next to each other, you go, if you're Musk and you're Musk's handlers or your PR people, why would you want that image of, the hero of the right-wing machine being seated next to your guy who's the champion of free speech and the champion of transparency? Why would you want to see, would you do that? Now, look, I've always said, he bought Twitter specifically to destroy what was only a very small advantage for the quote-unquote left or for democratic voices. And congratulations, he has done that. But you can't now, or my favorite, his ego is the other part of this. Fires his engineer because his impressions went down. I mean, wow. I mean, that's one of those wow moments. But again, this idea that the right keeps throwing, this victimization, they're stealing my free speech. And I had someone say, well, what if Elon Musk, blocked you? I go, he has a couple of times. They have blocked us. They have all of our stuff is up. Our impressions are through the roof. All this stuff, but the engagement, the mentions, all that stuff, all down. It's because of the way they've changed their algorithms. And this is how you manipulate the system to get the results you want. And this is what Twitter has done and all social media companies have done. But it's not a free speech issue. Because understand, free speech is between you and your government. Now, they are trying to say that there was collusion between the U.S. government and Twitter to silence your voices. And that the stat I love, and I forget what idiot said it, but the stat I love is that, if people on Twitter would have known about Hunter Biden's laptop, 53% of people who voted, 53% would have changed their vote. I'm going, I don't know what orifice you pulled that out of. It was the Twitter files, Rick. Yeah, I know. I don't know what orifice they pulled that out of. I have a pretty good guess. But to think about, there are 53% of the people on Twitter in this country. But somehow it was going to change 53% of the vote. Again, that victim card. Oh, they're so good at it. But the thing is they now have the power of committees. And this is all we're going to hear. We're going to hear, oh, poor, pitiful me, over and over and over. And where's Warren Zevon when we need him to at least make it somewhat entertaining? Because so far, it's the clown show we expected without the entertainment. It's bread and circus without the bread or the circus. It's just sad.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
Indigenous people have been saying that we feel a shift in the climate for decades. Climate change is here. The time is now to pass the torch on to the next generation of clean energy warriors. We need to put the land back to work for our people. That means creating jobs for them to live and thrive in our communities. The time is now. Congress must invest in clean energy.
It takes a lot to raise a family. A good job, a good salary, and some patience. A lot of people my age are drowning in college debt. But I chose a different path. I'm a member of the IBEW, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. I work hard for my job, and I love what I do. I had a lot of choices for my future, but I made the best choice for my family. IBEW, the right choice.
Before we close the program, we want to take a moment to thank our viewers and to share a little bit about why we do what we do. At the Rick Smith Show, we believe that media today is almost entirely controlled by corporate greed. So we have now 24-hour news channels. But instead of 24 hours of news, what we get is 1 hour repeated 24 times, and with tons of commercials, creating obscene amounts of profits. Information once presented as a public service has now become a private commodity. So when lies make money, lies are what we get. We get a corporate-controlled rage machine feeding us anger and hate, trying to convince us that our problems are right, left, or red, blue, when they are and always have been up, down, the wealthiest 1% versus the rest of us. Our goal is to be an alternative to that machine, not as a news show with a fancy journalist out front, but as a talk show run by a union truck driver and a team of working-class heroes just like you. Everything we do, both what we get right and what we get wrong, is dedicated to advancing the interests of America's working families. No corporate ad buys, no think tanks, no focus groups, no talking points. We are media by working people, for working people. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.